school year, many students spend hours upon hours each night working on homework. Add to that work, sports, and extracurricular activities, it's no wonder the result is a lot of stressed out teens. Homework is a hotly debated topic. Whether this debate can be won is unknown. Many people argue students get too much homework, while others strongly disagree. In a survey conducted on Today.com, out of 7,531 voters, 86% said they felt kids get too much homework.
I'm Eliza Elliott and I'm a senior. I think too much homework would be homework that takes away from my ability to do activities or talk to my friends or be with my family. I have a part-time job and I also do some activities outside of school, so if my homework interferes with my ability to go to my activity, or if my activity interferes with my ability to get all my homework done, then I'd say that's too much.
My name is Matt Hochberg and I am in 10th grade. Depends what classes you take, but if you're in honors or AP, I definitely think that students definitely get a lot of homework.
Hi, I'm Melissa Attinger. I'm a mother and a teacher in Fairfield Public Schools. I have 3 children and they have various amounts of homework and have had various amounts of homework throughout their lives. And it was a lot easier when they were younger in the elementary schools, but as they approached middle school and high school, the amount of homework is unbearable. It's been not just a half hour a night, an hour a night, it's been several hours a night. So it takes a toll on all of us because we're all affected by the amount of homework because we have to work dinner around it. We have to stay up late because sometimes they need help with homework and sometimes they don't, and they don't come to you till like 10 o'clock. So the amount of homework that my children get, and I'm assuming most other households, definitely affects the entire family. Because when one child gets stressed out, the rest of the family gets stressed out.
The amount of homework high school students get often result in late nights and thus a loss of sleep. Optimal sleep is considered 9 or more hours, but it is not unusual for students to get 6 hours or less of sleep during the week. Getting less sleep is linked to higher levels of anxiety, depression, and fatigue the next day. According to Denise Clark Pope, a lecturer at the Stanford University School of Education, adequate sleep alone would make a big difference in teen stress levels. However, sleep is not the only thing homework may deprive teenagers of. It may also prevent them from taking part in all the activities they want to.
I could have done sports or maybe drama at school if I didn't have homework, but those things are all like a daily basis activity, and they require you to be there every day, and I never knew if I would maybe have too much homework on a given day, so it kind of drew me away from taking up too many school activities that I knew had a daily commitment. And my freshman year, I played softball, and I'd been playing softball since first grade, but the work just became so overwhelming, and I would come home at like 6 o'clock and then eat dinner and then be doing homework from 7 to 11 at night. So I had to quit softball, and it was really upsetting, but I mean, I had to do it because of the homework.
Homework has personally affected me because it has kept me from doing things that I love, like baseball or hanging out with my friends, and it's definitely taken a lot of time away from sort of things that I want to do more than just focus on school.
While taking AP and other higher level courses can demonstrate that students are actively trying to better themselves, pushing themselves beyond what the average student might do does not do any favors when they get overwhelmed trying to fit everything in their life in. Because of this, some people argue it is the course load that a student takes on, rather than the actual homework assigned that is the true stressor.
I don't think that students get too much homework. I think that students who are overwhelmed by their homework haven't taken an appropriate course load, where maybe they have packed their schedule with too many AP or honors classes, or feel compelled that they need to take a million courses to build their resume, and I think that often that leads them into a situation where they get too much homework.
Yes, I think kids are responsible for that, but I also think that they're too young to always make those decisions on their own. They're not developmentally ready to understand how taking on 3 AP classes could potentially really interfere with their lives outside of school. So I think that's what guidance counselors are for. And I think teachers themselves need to go in, and I think they do this in the schools, like you need to go in when they're sophomores and when they're juniors and just explain the workload and explain it so that it's truthful, so that it's not just you're going to be getting a lot of work next year and think twice before taking the class, but really what the expectation is. You will be getting about an hour of homework each night so that kids can learn to gauge and whether it's appropriate to take all these classes.
Well, I think that there's a great resource on the district curriculum website that talks through approximately how much homework you should have per week, per subject and level. So that's always the first thing I look at. I also look at the classes they're taking this year and even sometimes the teachers that they're taking this year, because if I know that they're ready for a huge ramp up next year based on what they're picking, then I have to be honest with the kid about that and make sure that they know. But I think it's also about work ethic. You can go into a lot stronger class schedule and be willing to put the work in, and so the amount of homework doesn't matter because you're ready to do it and you want to do it.
A complaint often heard among students is that teachers aren't fully aware of how much homework students are actually being given. While this might be true, there are reasons that may refute this as well.
Teachers, for some reason, aren't really aware that students have 4 other classes in a day and probably 8 other homework assignments each night that they also have to do. So they just kind of give however much homework they want without taking into consideration that a student may also have to write an essay, do 10 math problems for all of their other classes.
I do live in a little bit of a vacuum. I'm not thinking about what AP Spanish is giving you and what AP Calc is giving you. I'm giving you assignments that I know that I need you to cover so that I can prepare a program that's appropriate for you. So I think one of the best things that we can do is give school counselors a good idea of what the time expectations are, so that when you're signing up for the classes, they could say, okay, with this schedule, you've built yourself in 12 hours of homework a week. Think about what you have going on after school. Do you have the time for that? Can you make this commitment? And if the answer is no, then we need to reevaluate your schedule.
With the amount of homework these days staying fairly constant, students need to find ways to manage their work the best they can. Many argue that communication is key. In fact, it has been proven that students who have a positive, supportive relationship with their teachers attain higher levels of achievement than those students who don't.
I always tell my kids the teachers are there for you. If you're having trouble, you can't get it done for some reason, you're too stressed out, I think it's very important that kids have a relationship with their teacher. And I think a lot of kids don't do that these days. I don't know if they're scared of teachers. I don't know if they're not encouraged to go speak to their teachers. I don't know if they've had bad experiences with teachers from prior years, but I do think teachers are there to help students. So I think I always encourage my kids to go speak to their teacher and let them know that they're having trouble or that they couldn't get it done. And I'm always there to help, but a lot of it's hard for me.
I definitely think it's acceptable, and the teacher should not get mad if a student is feeling pressured or stressed at any point. And if they have a legitimate excuse or reason, then I think it's definitely acceptable to go talk to a teacher. And it is very stressful for even a student to make that first step to go talk to the teacher, because the teachers also put a ton of pressure on these students, especially when they're expected to do all this homework along with all the other homework they get in other classes.
As a general rule, I try to take those situations on a case-by-case basis and talk to the student about what is it about this particular assignment. Is it level of difficulty that's making them have problems with the homework? Is it have to do with their time management of what's going on outside of school? Does it have to do with just something that's circumstantial, like for that week? Maybe they have a big game or a lot of practice or acting classes outside of school, I know that extracurriculars and when students make commitments outside of school, that definitely has a huge impact on their ability to get their homework done. So if it's just like a one-time thing, I'm happy to move a deadline for a student, but I kind of do that on more of a case-by-case basis.
Not all that long ago, actually, I had a student who, let's think of how to creatively talk through this without naming the teacher or the class. They were given some reading to do over a 2-day break, so a Tuesday to a Thursday. And it was a lot of reading, and it was really dense reading, and it was an honors level class, so I got the idea around doing that as an assignment, maybe not doing it in that short of a time frame. And so I just talked to the teacher, and the teacher still has the right to make their decisions. It's their class, it's their work, and their student in their class. But I just tried to talk with the teacher about how this may have been a little bit large of an assignment for any student, let alone this student who had some other stuff going on. And so I think that sometimes everybody makes decisions that maybe wouldn't be the best for everybody, but it's what was the best for the assignment at the time, and I understand that.
Outside of the United States, there exist countries that give students little to no homework at all. Finland gives the lightest homework load of any industrialized nation, while still performing among the top nations on the Program for International Student Assessment, a standardized test given to 15-year-olds in 65 nations and territories around the world. Interestingly enough, when asked what would happen if homework were removed altogether, responses differed significantly between a teacher and a parent.
If homework were taken away altogether, I think that I would have a more difficult time covering the volume of curriculum that I'm required to. A lot of times homework will allow me to really focus on the fun part of the discussion or the fun part of the lesson. So for example, students can come in and work on a project where we can have a big Socratic seminar or discussion about the content that they covered outside the classroom. If homework was eliminated for me, I would have to do a lot more coverage and more direct instruction within the 85 minutes that I'm given, rather than allowing them to work on that at home.
I think we'd have less kids on medication for anxiety. I think kids would, and families would be able to spend more time together. I feel like I've definitely, as a parent, missed out on a lot of my kids' not social time, but our time together, because they're always in their rooms doing homework. They're always at the kitchen table doing homework. And I think if we had more time as a family together, I think that would improve, and relationships would improve, and socially they would improve. Kids are so attracted to their phones and their electronics that when they're not doing homework, they're on social media trying to catch up with their friends because they don't get to spend a lot of time with their friends. But I think eating family dinners together is good, but that can never be done because one's always doing homework or one has to go somewhere. So I think, I think it would make things less stressful, and I think kids would have better communication skills and better social skills, and would feel more confident and comfortable with who they are.
The discrepancy between the past responses represents the much larger debate that continues to occur around America. Overall, the issue seems to stem not from homework itself, but from societal pressures to be the best.
I think it's such a hard question to answer because I think it's such a societal issue. I think students today have so much pressure on them, way more pressure than I had on, me when I was in your shoes. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was. But I think you feel so much pressure to be involved in a million extracurricular activities, to do community service, to be building your resume, and to take the maximum schedule that you can to schedule every period with the hardest classes possible because you want to get into a good college. And if you don't do that and everybody else is, then you're going to somehow lose out. So I think that the homework problem, or the problem of stress and anxiety that kids have, is not about homework. It's about all of those other issues, but homework is kind of the most tangible thing that we could say, well, it's these 2 or 3 hours of work that have to be done after school. Well, if you didn't have to take, a million outside classes, violin lessons, field hockey, acting classes, whatever, and if you didn't feel compelled to take 4 AP classes, then a lot of those other things would go away. So I really think that it's just a systemic societal issue. And I don't know that if homework were gone, it would necessarily get better, because then people would probably take more classes and engage in more extracurriculars, and the time would be filled.
There is so much, there's such competition now to get into the best college and the best school. And I think too many schools, particularly in the Northeast, tell their students to take as much as you can. That's what colleges are looking for. But there's a college out there for everybody. It doesn't have to be the best college in the world. It just needs to be a college that's good for you.
Well, if there wasn't the pressure of taking the hardest classes that you could to look good for colleges, then students wouldn't be overloading themselves with like 5 AP classes and honors classes and orchestra and extracurricular activities, and then the homework wouldn't be an issue. So I think it's definitely the pressure of society telling teenagers and high schoolers particularly that they need to look better than everyone else in their grade that causes the stress of homework.
The image of a particular triangle has circled social media, with teens everywhere retweeting, reblogging, and reposting it because of an apparent universal agreement on the accuracy of what it depicts. The triangle says to choose 2 of 3 options: good grades, enough sleep, and social life, which basically suggests that one of those options needs to be sacrificed in order to excel in the other 2.
I do also think that students need to realize that taking 73 AP classes isn't necessarily going to get them into their favorite school. It's really about being well-rounded. And having that triangle is being well-rounded. You can't achieve if you're not sleeping. And if you're not sleeping and you're not achieving, then obviously you're not going to be able to have much of a social life, but that's just biological. So, I think just trying to maybe take a step back and be the best that they can be in all 3 of those realms is what's more important than taking the best of the best and killing yourself day in and day out trying to get everything done.
Overall, the homework debate should not be centered on homework itself, but on the standards society sets for teenagers to be the best student out there. This societal issue has only continued to grow over the years, and will likely continue to grow. Thus, there can be no winner in the homework debate. Homework will probably always exist in American society. The key is figuring out a way to manage it. The importance of having a balanced life should not be diminished. Rather, it should be emphasized. Whether that means implementing a checks and balances system with students, or simply raising a more universal awareness of the pressures teens face, the issue at least needs to be acknowledged. Students, make choices that are for you, and not for society. If everyone starts living by that advice, maybe the homework debate will one day come to an end. Who knows?